This segment of WGCU's Untold Stories is underwritten by Collier County Government, County Commission, District School Board of Collier County, City of Naples, City Council, and the Baron Collier Jr. Foundation.
Nearly 50 years after its founding, Naples remained a well-kept secret on the edge of the Everglades, the distant and delightful playground of privileged Northerners. By 1945, Naples was little more than a bend in the road, a one-stoplight town in the boondocks and barely on the map. But the secret paradise was about to be discovered once again. Within 30 years, the diamond in the rough had become the glittering superstar of Florida real estate, and Naples was reputed to have more golf courses and millionaires per capita than any other city in America. The stellar rise from backwater to boomtown began after World War II, when advertising and an innovative plan revived the town's lifeblood industries, tourism and real estate.
I think about 1949 or 1950, 51, the Naples company was purchased by Henry B. Watkins Sr. He had sent Ad Miller in here in 1948 with instructions to get going, put Naples on the map, sell the land, and develop it. The Naples company was doing fabulous advertising. There was a lot of curiosity about Naples, and a lot of people began spending their vacations here. In the 1950s, we began getting an enormous amount of publicity.
Holiday magazine writer Bill Ballantyne raved about the developing town, noting,
"Naples is not a typical Florida boomtown. The upgrading is being done with remarkable restraint. Medicine show tactics are outlawed, and irresponsible building is banned by a zoning code instituted 10 years ago, when Naples' tide of fortune was at its lowest ebb."
In the late 1940s, determined to turn that tide of misfortune, town leaders came up with an ambitious and unusual plan to pay for desperately needed community improvements.
People really took ownership of the town. The people who are coming here to vacation and live here fell in love with the area, and they wanted it to be better. And they developed the Naples plan. Roy Smith, the mayor of the town, went on and said, "We need to make some improvements. Let's all pool our money and get some money so we can do some things."
A Collier County news editorial applauded the plan, which would keep the languishing town from ruinously bonding itself or waiting years for a miracle that might never happen. Wealthy winter residents generously backed the Naples plan, financing improvements that included beach groins and a new park named after the town's first engineer, William Cambier. The Naples plan also launched the town's first mosquito spraying program. By 1949, the town boasted nearly 2,000 residents and enough registered voters to incorporate as a city. In that same momentous year, Naples also celebrated the opening of its first bank, the Bank of Naples, located on 5th Avenue South in the developing shopping district of the city. Soon after, another big city amenity with a small town touch began with the start of mail delivery by bike. Approximately 600 houses within the city were eligible for delivery, but the postmaster stressed that service cannot be given until house numbers and mailboxes are placed by individual owners. The growing city seemed to offer everything except a hospital. Since the nearest hospital was 30 miles away in Fort Myers, citizens rallied together again to raise funds for a 52-bed facility. The state-of-the-art and stylish Naples Community Hospital opened in 1956, and Collier County news writer Thomas Hayer reported,
"The new lobby will make you let out a low, soft whistle. Every bit of added luxury was paid for by an individual from Naples, not from building fund contributions.
Dorothy Draper decorated. It was, first class for Naples. Because there was no EMS, Pittman's funeral home appeared on the scene, and they were at 6th Avenue North, near the hospital, and we used to say they were crepe hangers.
Although the Seaboard Airline Railway didn't return to Naples after World War II, selling out since the area showed no promise, its rival, the Atlantic Coastline, restarted service into the old depot on 10th Street South, launching its air-conditioned Pullman service to Naples with the Champion.
We were invited to come along, and Gloria Swanson came in on the train, and boy, that was exciting. But I think the fact that it was a new train line coming into Naples that was more exciting than even she.
With the return of train service, tourism was back on track in Naples. The city's handful of hotels, guest houses, and trailer parks couldn't keep up with the growing number of winter visitors, and a Collier County News editorial implored residents to help.
A good example of the hospitality of Naples is the fact that Mayor Roy Smith has taken travelers into his own home on nights when the situation has been desperate. Have you got an extra room in your house? Notify the Chamber of Commerce if you would like to do some weary motorist a good turn.
In response to the need for more rooms, the ever-popular Naples Hotel expanded to include the Pines and the Inn. The venerable old hotel, which first opened to guests in 1888, remained the centerpiece of Naples and one of the few places to go for fine food.
I loved to go to the old Naples Hotel, but it was very expensive. But I tried to go at least once a month to the Sunday night buffet, which was $6.
The food was excellent, yes. Oh, yes, yes. There were only a few other places in town to eat. The 41 Club and the Trail Tavern. Then there was the Golf Hotel, the Mrs. Day's Golf Hotel on 5th Avenue, and Bayview Inn.
Naples was already well known as a tarpon fishing destination when television personality Arthur Godfrey visited in January 1950 and later complained on air that he had been to Naples to catch a tarpon but only caught a cold. In response, the Chamber of Commerce sent a tarpon to Godfrey, who took the joke in stride, opening the gift during his CBS broadcast. It was a promotional coup for Naples, although the city's reputation for fabulous fishing sounded more like fiction than fact, prompting Collier County News columnist Tom Morgan to quip.
The trouble with fishing in Naples is, it's so good it makes even truthful characters look like liars. And liars look truthful.
Oversized and outlandish swamp buggies also made national headlines just months before, during the first annual Swamp Buggy Day, held on October 14, 1949. Ed Frank, who opened the first garage in Naples in 1927, invented the high-riding machines so hunters could traverse the tough terrain of the Everglades. The editor of the Collier County News claimed,
Swamp buggies are as important to Florida as the cow pony is to the West, in that they're the only practical means of transportation once off the main road.
The first Swamp Buggy Day included a parade and races in what Frank called the boggiest hole in the vicinity of Naples. More than 4,000 people attended the event, held 2 miles east of the Naples airport in a mucky track later dubbed the Mile o' Mud. The wild and wacky event became a Naples tradition that included everything from baking contests to mud baths in what promoters proudly called the dirtiest race in the world. Another wild and wacky show attracted thousands of visitors to the world-famous Caribbean Gardens. The languishing tropical garden of renowned botanist Dr. Henry Neerling was bought by Julius Junkie Fleischmann in 1951. The wealthy entrepreneur restored the gardens and added tropical plants and birds from around the world.
There were, I think, 6 of us who were asked to be hostesses and take the public through, and we each had a bird on our shoulder, and we were taught what the various plants were, and it was a wonderful thing to be a part of the opening of his gardens.
The gardens also featured a large collection of ducks that eventually became the crowd-pleasing stars of duck vaudeville, after the frugal Fleischman realized how much it cost to feed the birds.
Junkie said, well, they ought to be able to do something to earn their living. And so they called in a person that was an expert at training animals, training ducks. And we got enormous publicity all over the world.
In 1969, Lawrence Jungle Larry Tetzloff leased the gardens and renamed the popular attraction Jungle Larry's African Safari. Jungle Larry, with his wife Nancy Jane, dubbed Safari Jane, added exotic animals to the gardens, including the rare half-tiger, half-lion tiglins, which became a major tourist attraction. Many tourists came back to stay, a trend that began in the early 1950s with the first dredge and fill development in Naples, Aqualane Shores. Forrest Walker carved canals into the useless mangrove swamps just south of the city and offered his brand new waterfront lots for as little as $100 down and $50 a month. Further south, another dredge and fill development was taking shape, John Glenn Sample's Deluxe Port Royal.
He had been in the advertising business. He was considered the genius of the 30s and 40s. He was the one that invented the soap opera. There were no rules and regulations against dredging as there are today. And so he had this vision. He bought all of what is Port Royal for $50,000.
Sample envisioned a luxurious and exclusive waterfront community and required mandatory membership in the development's private club, signaling to prospective buyers that all residents would be hand-picked.
He just wanted people that he thought would fit in. And I remember one man came to buy considerable lots in Port Royal, and Mr. Sample took him out for a game of golf, and this man wore white socks with his shoes, and Sample wouldn't sell him a lot.
Sample often toured suitable buyers through the waterways of Port Royal on board his 70-foot yacht, Privateer 4. By 1952, 3 sections had been completed and 4 homes were available to acceptable purchasers. Prices ranged from $7,000 for a waterfront lot to $45,000 for the Bermudian residence, which featured 3 bedrooms, 2 tiled baths, and an oversized 1-car garage. The demand for waterfront lots spurred more dredge and fill developments, including Royal Harbor on the eastern side of Naples Bay, where promoters promised every backyard is bayfront. Although nearly inaccessible, land to the north of the city, near Doctors Pass, was purchased by Milton Link for development of the moorings.
The road, it basically ended at the end of the beach club, and there was a road that went out to the beach. So if you wanted to walk, you could, but it was pretty far. We would usually go on a 4-wheel vehicle.
The new star of the Florida land boom was on the rise until the arrival of Hurricane Donna on September 10, 1960. Hurricane Donna blasted the city with wind gusts estimated to be more than 160 miles per hour. A 9.5-foot storm surge caused extreme flooding.
The town was pretty well torn up. The water washed through the buildings. It washed furniture right out onto the highway. It washed my golf clubs from the golf beach club all the way to the 3rd hole, which is right next to the 41.
Damage to the city was estimated at $25 million, and the city's signature fishing pier, the Pride of Naples, was nearly destroyed.
By November, there was very little evidence that Naples had taken this terrible blow. And the insurance companies had come in and paid off all the insurance. So we had a huge influx of money, and people took that money to rebuild bigger and better than ever.
Ironically, insurance on the pier had been canceled just weeks before Donna struck. Again, wealthy winter residents stepped in to help. Naples philanthropists Lester and Delora Norris donated more than $125,000 to rebuild the pier. Architects Ralph and William Zimmerman designed Tahitian-style buildings for both the new pier and nearby Loudermilk Park, launching an architectural style that became affectionately known as Nea-Polynesian. Although Naples was recovering from Donna, a 1962 guide to Florida warned potential real estate buyers,
Naples is pausing after a big growth spurt in the 50s, which was accompanied by a real estate boom that sent prices far beyond reasonable heights. Naples is almost certain to resume its uptrend, though not at the fantastic rate predicted for it by many of its overenthusiastic boosters. But then, no area could grow that fast.
But the overenthusiastic boosters were right, and a front-page Collier County news story noted in 1963,
Construction is going on at a record pace. Building permits in August amounted to more than $1 million, the largest figure for a single month. In the early 1950s, it took a whole year for that much building to be done.
The old made way for the new, and by 1964, the historic Naples Hotel was facing the wrecking ball.
The hotel itself everything was so rustic and so open that it would have been impossible almost to restore. The doors to the rooms were wooden louvers and no air conditioning, of course.
The old hotel, once the centerpiece of Naples, was overshadowed by the more modern Beach Club Hotel, which originally opened in 1931 as a clubhouse for the town's first golf course.
The Beach Club was considered modern and up-to-date. The old Naples Hotel was just a traditional old-timey hotel. When it was torn down in 1964, a lot of us just cried. I wouldn't go by there for a long time.
An editorial in the Collier County News also lamented the loss of the Naples Hotel and its famous Seminole Room, which had hosted such celebrities as Gary Cooper and Robert Montgomery.
In the good old days, it was the center of after-dark activities. If one didn't like the Seminole Room, there was Clark's Bar, Trail Tavern, or Club 41 at Four Corners. That was it.
Rapid growth forced development to move east, and by the mid-1960s, Gulf American Land Corporation, developer of Cape Coral in Lee County, had begun work on Golden Gate, billed as the world's largest subdivision. The new mega-development included the city of Golden Gate, the city of the future, and more than 100,000 acres in eastern Collier County, called Golden Gate Estates. Potential buyers were lured with a long list of free goodies, including gasoline, fishing trips, and 20-minute airplane tours over the development. On the beach, undeveloped land was also disappearing rapidly. Although the first beachfront cooperative building, the Bahama Club, opened in 1957, the 36-unit building remained virtually alone on the beach until the mid-1960s. By 1966, a Collier County News editorial asked,
Where will the Naples high-rise era stop? 5 years ago, Gulf Shore Boulevard was all but a deserted stretch of sandy beach. Today, high-rise condos and co-ops dot the landscape.
From mobile homes to mansions, the once remote resort had become the epicenter of an epic building boom. The building frenzy included carefree condos and apartments, and the news editor noted in amazement,
20 years ago, you couldn't give an apartment building away. Today, well over 30% of all new construction is apartment units. And where the trend stops, nobody knows.
Growth threatened to consume even the remote reaches of Rookery Bay, just south of the city. Concerned citizens banded together to stop the construction of a road through the maze of mangroves.
Generous Neapolitans, the Collier County Conservancy, in association with the National Audubon Society, recently acquired 4,000 acres of coastal mangrove wilderness through private funding for preservation.
The Sinclair Oil Company congratulated the town that put up the fight of its life for its wildlife. Despite its growing pains, Naples retained a small-town charm. A front-page story in the Collier County News mourned the passing of one of Naples' best-known and most loved landmarks, an old gentleman dog called Jedge.
It was a close-knit place. It was small. Everybody knew everybody else. They helped each other.
In the summertime, we just enjoyed. If you can imagine it, on Wednesday afternoons, everything closed up. We all went down on the beach. We went fishing, and it was a big family. It was wonderful.
Even the cable company offered small-town touches.
I came here to run the cable television company. We only had 6 channels, and one of those channels was kind of interesting. It was what we called a scanner. There's a flagpole that's still there at the Cove Inn, at the circle, and when the wind was blowing strong, too much for the boats to go out, they'd put up a red flag, and I'd put a sign on the scanner that said, "The flag is up." And people would turn to that and see that the flag was up, so they'd know it was too windy for them to go out into the Gulf.
If boating wasn't possible, a Florida guide advised,
One of the major attractions for sightseeing is Millionaires Row, the line of mansions along Gordon Drive.
one of those millionaires, John Slater, opened his own private nature preserve on the grounds of his Gulf-front estate. His exotic collection included television star Flipper's stand-in, Flash. By 1966, Naples was reputed to have more than 100 millionaires as permanent or seasonal residents. Golf courses were also reaching record numbers, and the beach club faced new competition from more than 7 other courses, including the new Big Cypress Golf and Country Club, which charged an unprecedented $5 for greens fees and $7 for an electric cart. In 1968, a record number of tourists arrived on a brand new road, the controversial Everglades Parkway, jeeringly dubbed Alligator Alley by the American Automobile Association, which considered the 2-lane toll road too dangerous to be built. The controversial road connected Naples to Fort Lauderdale and proved the end of the line for train service into Naples. The last passenger train pulled out of the Naples depot in 1971, but freight service continued until 1980. New developers with new ideas began moving in, changing the look and character of the city.
When outside developers came and were only interested in their investment and their bottom line, the character of Naples changed.
Along the beachfront, developers were struggling to maximize density along the narrow strip of sand, prompting heated arguments in City Hall.
The Lutker companies, as I remember, went before City Council and said, look, if we're allowed to build high-rises, then that will allow green space and parks between the buildings. It took years to get this done, but they finally acknowledged that that was the way to go.
The once tiny town was growing at an unprecedented rate, and an editorial in the Collier County News asked,
With Naples one of the fastest growing communities in the United States, how can even faster growth be accommodated and still conserve the qualities and features of the Naples way of living, which fundamentally are the root cause of Naples' growth?
It was a question that would be asked again and again.
When I became president of the Chamber of Commerce in 1972, it appeared to me and a lot of other people that Naples was going to grow.
Preparing for an ever-escalating population spurred even more development.
I think that everybody is surprised with the rapid growth. And someone said to me one day about the development out where the tomato fields are. They said, well, didn't you expect that? No.
It's like everybody else, growth is what we've seen. You know, when I came up here, my dad took me out on a drive one time, and he said, someday there'll be a place called Pelican Bay here. We were standing looking out on just some scrub growth, you know, and I said, well, we're going to build up here, you know. It didn't look like much of an area.
In 1972, one of the last tracts of undeveloped beachfront property was acquired for the development of Pelican Bay. Almost a century after its founding, Naples was fulfilling its promise as a picture-perfect and profitable paradise.
Naples was a resort. That was the main purpose of town, and hard to accept, it was a real estate scheme. I mean, they came here to buy land, to subdivide it, and to sell the lots. How much clearer can you get what the purpose of the thing was except to make some money?
In an ever-repeating cycle, the old made way for the new, and in 2006, the oldest house in Naples, once the home of founder Walter Haldeman, was moved to Bonita Springs.
There have been lots of outrageous things that have happened in Naples that we have allowed our heritage to be destroyed. The people in old Naples who have those little cottages are worth over $1 million. You can't tell those people they can't ever sell it or take it down. As it is today, if you dig deep enough, you will find the influence of those early settlers. There are still a few remnants left. And in many ways, the pier. The pier has gone through many transitions, as has the city, but the soul of the pier remains.
As remnants of a colorful past vanish, the pier remains, a link to the foresighted founders who saw the promise of the distant paradise and laid the lasting foundation for their city in the sun, Naples.
To purchase a copy of this and other WGCU-produced programs, go to WGCU.org or call 1-888-824-0030. This program was produced for the citizens of Southwest Florida by WGCU Public Media. Show your appreciation for programs like these. Become a member of WGCU, a business supporter, or leave a legacy through estate or planned gift. Call or visit our website at WGCU.org.